Hello and welcome to episode 36 of Stitched in Sweden. I'm Maria and you can find me on Ravelry and Instagram as mmonska. The show notes for this week and previous weeks can be found on the blog, which is stitchedinsweden.blogspot.com. Today I will talk to you a little bit about this week in Stockholm, a couple of projects that I've been working on, some finished objects, some upcoming plans, and a little technique tip. And yeah, I would like to start out by saying thank you to Devin and Jenny from the Tiny Paper Foxes podcast for giving me some tips for some lighting suggestions. I am giving it a try, something new to try this week. Thank you for your tips and advice. This week in Stockholm has been, of course, it has been very sad because of what happened in Paris, and there has been not that much noticeable difference in security or anything here, but there has been a lot of talk about what's going on, and of course, yeah, it's very sad. But I don't really want to talk about that here because I would like this podcast to be a place where you can pause other parts of your life and think about some happy things for a little while. But yes, so this week last night we went to some of Thomas's friends' house and watched the Sweden versus Denmark qualifying match for the European Cup, and Sweden won. So that was, it was actually a tied game, 2-2, but Sweden won the game on Saturday last week. So they advanced to, play in the cup. So that was, it was an exciting game to watch and fun to be a part of that. Soccer, I don't know if I said that. Yes, and let's see, I'm feeling a little bit scattered, but yeah. I got a really nice package in the mail from my friend Elena, and she sent me some very lovely things, which I won't share all of them with you, but I will share some yarn that she sent me, which is from Manos del Uruguay, and this is the Fino, and I'm not really sure what the colorway is. It doesn't, maybe Silhouette is the color. Here it is. It's a really pretty, slightly tonal blues with some lighter parts here you can see. And this is 30% silk and 70% extra fine merino. It is approximately 490 yards or 450 meters for 100 grams. And I think it's really pretty. I'm not sure what I'm going to make with it yet. I think it would make probably a lovely shawl. But, as soon as I started the shawl season, Cal, I don't think I've knit any shawls since then. But I'm really enjoying seeing all of your shawls on the Ravelry boards. So this will probably sit with me for a little while until I think of something that I want to knit with it. But, yeah, it's really pretty. So that was a nice thing to receive in the mail this week. It has been quite dark and not very cold here yet, but I am recording in the middle of the day on Wednesday, which is just by chance because I don't have class today. I have one day free per week, and often it falls on Friday, which means that I'm usually working, but this week it's on Wednesday, so I'm home, and it was actually nice and sunny and blue sky outside a few minutes ago, and then I started gathering my things for the podcast, and it is completely socked in with fog now. I can't see very far out the window. Anyway, I thought it would be fun again to bring back the sunrise sunset watch. So as it gets darker this winter, right now the sun is rising at 7:50 a.m. and setting at 3:15 in the afternoon. Yesterday it was a cloudy day and it was dark by 3 o'clock. Like pretty dark. So always something to get used to, but yeah, you just have to have more lights around you and candles, which is nice. One thing that I worked on a lot this week while I was babysitting late one night is the Wheaten wrap. And this is a pattern that I have been working on for a little while now. The pattern is by Ann Hansen, and it's in Wool People 5. I'm knitting this in Brooklyn Tweed Loft in the Long Johns colorway, and I'm using the US size 5, which is a 3.75 millimeter needle. I am still really enjoying this. Give you an idea of the color. It's a little bit brighter than it actually is, but we're just gonna have to deal with the lighting situation for winter. So right now this wrap has grown quite a bit, but I don't think you're not going to be able to get an idea of how big it is. But there you go. I don't have the needles on. Didn't I do that last week also? I don't have the needles on because these needles are now on a new project, but I did finish the 4th ball, and this is the 5th one. Right now this wrap is just about, if I'm standing up, it is like up to here on me or so. If I'm holding it, touching the ground by my feet, it comes up to about here. And I've heard in the past that a good rule of thumb for scarves is to have them be at least as tall as you are. I think that I will probably make this one slightly taller than me just because it's going to be rather wide. Like it'll be probably, I think it's 11 inches wide or 12 inches wide, I'm not sure. But I'll definitely only wrap it around my neck one time, but it's quite bulky, and I want it to go down a little bit more than maybe just the length for my height. So yes, it's right here or so right now. I am 5'6" or 167 centimeters. So I think that it will be done soon. I don't think that I probably won't finish the end. I don't think I will finish the entire 5th skein of yarn, but yeah, it's unlikely that I'll use the entire 5th skein. To give you an idea of how long one skein is, the last time I podcasted, I had just started a new ball, or right after I podcasted, I started a new ball or something, and I did a marker right here. And I have a marker on the other side. This is one ball worth. So I don't think that I will need the entire 5th one, but we'll see. I'll just keep going on it until it seems like it's a good length. And I think also I'll want to make it just a little bit taller than myself, because when I block it, I will likely pull it a little bit wider. And if you pull it wider, then it shrinks a little bit in length. So that's the plan for that. Yeah. And again, I'm really enjoying it, and it was a nice project to have when I was finished with something else. Another project that I didn't work very much on is the Suniva socks, which is a pattern by Lana Gerald of the A Wee Bit Nitty podcast. And I worked on these a little bit, actually. Maybe from this marker. These socks are just lovely, and I cannot wait to wear them. I really just need, I'm, right at the heel. So I really need to just do the turn, pick up the gusset stitches, and then I know that the rest will fly by. I finished the first sock maybe 2 weeks ago. Maybe I showed it to you last week. I don't know, it looks funny, but it fits great. This is knit out of the Wool Barn Smooth Sock Base, which I really love. It is a plied yarn. I think there's probably 4 plies. Yeah, it looks like there's 4 plies. And it's a just really nice smooth blend, and it's called Smooth Sock. So this is in the Old Romance colorway, which has a nice little sort of speckle that kind of reminds me of a peppermint bark. So here we go. Nice little sort of cable-y motif. I realized on this sock as I was starting the heel flap that I did the wrong number of stitches in between one of the columns because there's sort of different numbers around. I don't know how that happened, but it doesn't really matter. And I just added another stitch once I got to the heel flap. So one sock leg will be 1 stitch narrower than the other one, but I think it will be fine. I have brought these socks with me to school a couple of times because I keep thinking that I might work on them during class. One of my friends and classmates who we usually sit next to each other, she often, now always, brings a sock to knit on. And she mostly does like stockinette socks. And so when we're having lectures, especially because now I'm in a statistics class, which I've already learned a lot before, so a lot of it's review, it's definitely possible to knit, but I am at the heel turn, so I can't knit on that sock because it's a slightly different heel turn than I'm used to in the pattern. And I could do the pattern because it's really simple patterning, but I think I would prefer to have a plain sock or something that I can just go around and around and not have to think about it all, so I can really pay attention in the class. But at the same time, I don't really feel like knitting plain socks, so I don't know. But I would like to find something because even though maybe I don't need to knit in class, when I have my friend sitting next to me and she's knitting, then it just makes me think about it all the time that I want to be knitting. So I might try and cast something on soon for something that I can bring to class, but I would like to finish those other socks first because I also have my black and white striped socks still on the needles, and these definitely didn't see work on them, I don't think. This is the second sock, and I'm pretty sure that I am ready to start the heel flap. This is the first sock. Let's see. Yeah, I'm waiting to do the heel flap right now. But I think these will be really fun once they're done. And this project also, even though this is stockinette, because it's striped and I'm doing the stripes with 2 different colors of yarn, it's not self-striping yarn, then it doesn't feel quite as class-friendly because then I have 2 balls of yarn to deal with, and I don't know. For some reason, it doesn't work for me. So we'll see. But yes, whatever. I'll figure something out. So this week I also started a new project, which is a sweater that I'm working on in the loft yarn that I showed you last week. And I am not using the Ashland pattern, really. I've used some of the numbers for it and the construction, but the color work is completely different, and yeah, it's not going to be the same sweater in the end. It's just going to have the same underlying construction, I guess, and be made out of the same yarn. But here it is. So this is a sleeve. So far, I am really loving working on this. It is flying by. Having color work on the sleeves definitely makes knitting sleeves not so boring, I guess. I don't know if I'll feel the same way once I get to the second sleeve, but we will see. I decided to do the sleeves first again because then once I finish the body, I'll be able to sew everything up and the sweater will be done, rather than knitting the whole body and then feeling like, oh, I still have to knit the sleeves. So here it is, and I have a waste yarn here, which is for my tubular cast on. This is the cast on that is suggested in the pattern, and it works really well. I decided to only use 4 of the colors of the loft, and I have the Camper colorway, which is kind of like a corally red, pink. I decided not to use that color for this sweater just because I changed the way that I was going to do the color work. Initially, I was planning on having color work sections with 2 colors per segment, but then, and I do have 2 colors per segment, but one of the colors is the background color, which is the fossil color. So before I was thinking, like, say in this purple section here, it would have been purple and maybe the lighter purple in the background rather than just the white fossil. But I decided to carry the background color through the whole sweater. And the reason why that made me not use Camper was because I was just going to use Camper as a sort of accent color within some of the color work. But now I don't have a chance for accent colors because I'm only using one color plus the background color, if that makes sense. So these stitch markers on the side are marking my increases for the sleeve, and I do that just so that I, first of all, remember to do the increase, and also so that I can count the number of rows easily to get to the next increase, and I can see them on the second sleeve as well. So the colors that I have here are Postcard, which are these 2, Postcard, Blanket Fort, Sap, and Truffle Hunt, and the background color is Fossil. It's going really quickly. This morning, like I said, I have the day off, and, well, it's supposed to be a study day, but I think that I need a knitting day instead of a study day because, yeah, whatever. I don't have to justify it, I'm sure. I started here this morning, and I had initially done a different color work pattern for this particular part, and then I thought about it. I didn't knit yesterday, and I thought about it, and I decided to rip it out and do the same one that I had here. So I started here and knit for a podcast, and I got to here. So yes, it's a lot of fun. I am switching back and forth between a US size 6, which is probably a 4mm needle, and a US 5, which is a 3.75mm. So I'm using my Hiya Sharps interchangeable needles, and how I do it is I always keep the smaller needle, which is the 5 for me, on the needle in my left hand, and then for the needle in my right hand, I switch back and forth between the 5 and the 6. So the color work sections I knit on the larger needle, and the 3 rows of white that I do in between, I knit on the smaller needle. And that was a suggestion in the pattern, and I also did that for my swatch, which I'll show you in a minute. and I think it works well because I definitely have a slightly tighter tension when knitting in colorwork. You can still tell it's a little bit, I don't know. You can sort of tell it's a little bit lumpy, I guess, but I'll show you the difference between my swatch and this, and you can really get a feeling for how it will look when it's blocked out, which is so magical, I think. So yes, a couple of times I've forgotten to switch the needle until I'm like maybe 2 rows into the colorwork or something, and then I remember, and then I just switch, and it makes it really easy with the interchangeable needles because you can just, screw off one tip and then screw on the larger needle and start knitting directly. And like I said, I'm only changing the size of the needle in my right hand because that's the one, I guess, that determines your gauge. Especially if, both needles probably have an effect on your gauge if they're 2 hugely different sizes, but when these are just one size different, I don't think it matters really. So yes, that is my sleeve, and I am really enjoying knitting it. I'm not carrying the, it's kind of hard for me to try it on with my long sleeve, but you can just get a little bit of an idea. So especially here, whatever, you can't tell so much on the video, but I can tell that it's a little bit lumpy, and I know that it will get better with blocking. But that just gives you an idea. I'm just past the elbow, and yeah, I think it will be a fun sweater. So that is that. In terms of my swatch, I told you that I would show you. This is the first time that I have ever steeked something, and it was a lot of fun and a great experience, and I will definitely do it again. The pattern, the Ashland pullover, which I'm using as kind of my background construction for this sweater, is a pattern by Julie Hoover, and it requires steeking for the armholes, I believe, and so in colorwork it's sometimes easier to knit in the round, and then if you need some part of it to be open or flat, then you cut it open. Oftentimes you use this technique if you want to knit a pullover, so where the entire thing is knit in the round, and then you want to turn it into a cardigan. You want to have a cardigan in the end, but you knit it in the round, so it would be like a pullover, and then you cut down the middle for a cardigan. But yes, this one will be a pullover, but the body is knit in a tube, and I bet the cap for the armhole is also knit in a tube, and then it's cut or steeked. So all that is to tell you, here is my swatch that I did. I got some tips for how to do this swatch from Anne, who lives in Norway, and she is the needle lady on Ravelry, and it was really fun. I'm glad that I decided to do it in the same yarn that I was planning on using for the project, because I got a feeling for how it knits up. I mean, I've knit with Loft before, but I don't think I've ever knit with it for colorwork, and it was just nice to test out some of the patterns that I was going to include in the motifs that I was going to include in my sweater. So yeah, here it is. And this darker yarn here on either side is the crochet reinforcement that I used for the steek. And I used a tutorial, a very good tutorial, which is the technique tip that I'm recommending this week. The tutorial is on Kate Davies' blog, and she has a series of maybe 4 or 5 different blog posts for Steeking. And I used the second one, which was about the reinforcement and the actual cut. Then she has some information about how to pick up the stitches and how to, for example, if you were going to add a button band, like if you had done it for the center of a cardigan, if that's where you had done your steek, she gives you some tips on button bands and stuff like that. But I think I used the second tutorial, and I will link that in the show notes for you. But you can see here, this is how it used to be. It was connected here. And then you do the crochet reinforcement, and you end up with one little, one stitch, I guess, a row of stitches down the center there that you clip. And it's really clear which ones you clip. And yeah, it was fun because it went from this like wonky tube to then I snipped it and blocked it, and it just, yeah, was fun. So I'll kind of show you here. I don't know how much of it comes across on camera. I guess there's not really that much of a difference of what you can see of how it looks blocked, but you can trust me that there is a big difference when you're looking at it up close. So yes, check out Kate Davies' tutorial for steeking, and don't be afraid. It is a lot of fun, and this was the first time that I've ever done it, and I was hoping to try it sometime this year because I just like keep putting it off. And now I think I will definitely be knitting another colorwork cardigan. I'll knit it as a pullover and then snip it up the front to make it a cardigan. In the near future, we'll say. So yes, that was a new technique for me this week, and I enjoyed it. I have 2 finished projects this week. One of them I cannot show you because Thomas has it with him. He has been wearing his Kennebec cowl ever since I finished it. This was the brioche cowl that I had about this much of started last time I talked to you, and I knit it in this lovely yarn from the Wool Barn, which is the Silk Sock, and it's in the metal colorway, which is a nice shiny metal gray. This is how much I have left. I forgot to say last time that I was holding this fingering weight yarn double for the brioche cowl. I don't know how I forgot that part, but anyway, so it was doubled, and I used most of the 2 skeins that I had. I could have done it a little bit longer, but it had a tubular cast on and a tubular bind off, and I wasn't sure exactly how much yarn the bind off would take, and because for a tubular bind off you have, I think, about 4 rows of preparation sort of for the bind off, I didn't want to risk running out of yarn. I definitely could have knit a couple more rows, but I was ready to be done at that point. So the cowl turned out pretty nice. I think that he enjoys wearing it. It's big enough that he can loop it around once. I mean, like, there's the loop and then he loops it again, so there's 2 loops total. And yeah, I think it looks good. I think we will probably try and take some pictures maybe this weekend, but it's not really possible to take pictures during the week because usually when we get home from school it's dark. So maybe on the weekend, we will see. But it was a fun thing to knit, and again, that's the Kennebec cowl by Dawn Catanzaro, and it was in Wool People 5. The other project that I finished this week is a project for my sister, a present for my sister, I guess I could say, and I don't think that she regularly watches the podcast, and probably not this far into it if she does ever watch it, so I'm hoping that she's not watching. But yeah, I knit the Bird of Happiness pattern, which is a free pattern on Ravelry, and I knit 5 little birds for her for Christmas. Here they are. And these are in various scraps of yarn that I have. I knit my succulent pattern, this small version, in this yarn. I will have all of these. If you remember, I think I showed it on the podcast once, I made a little bird mobile where I have a string in between. Oi! Birds down! Where I have a string in between them, and they hang like this, all in a row. I have one hanging in my kitchen, where I have 6 birds because I accidentally vacuumed off the 7th one. Yeah. Whatever. It's hanging on the wall, but my vacuum was flying around and it sucked the 7th bird right off, which was kind of sad, but whatever. It looks good still. So yes, here are the 5 little birds. This was from my succulent shawl pattern, the small version. This is from some socks that I made. This is Cascade Heritage fingering. It's like called Quattro or something. And this is the mustard color. This, I knit a shawl, windswept shawl. And I used both of these for the windswept shawl, and I gave that to my mom. And this, I knit my dew pattern with. This is the original sample, which is the alpaca sock from the Wool Barn. And this was a mystery yarn. I don't know where, but it went with this one in the pattern I used it for. So these little 5 birds will be making their way to the US for Christmas for my sister. And that was a fun little project. I knit all the bodies first, and then I knit the heads after, because I found with that project before I was never able to memorize it. I think because I would knit one body and then I would knit the head and then I would try to knit another one and I would have to look back at the instructions. But this way, after I had knit like 1 or 2 of the bodies, since I kept doing the bodies over and over, I didn't have to look back at the instructions, so I think it went a bit quicker and was more enjoyable because I wasn't constantly checking if I was doing it right. So those are the 2 projects that I finished this week. I think upcoming I would like to cast on a hat. I was definitely inspired by Kristen of Yarngasm Podcast, her hat, which I think was called, actually no, I don't know what it was called. But it had she put a nice pom-pom on it, and it's cable-y, and I think it looks nice. So I might cast that on. I would like to first finish my Wheaten wrap, and maybe I will cast on a project for knitting in school. We will see. But yeah, those are my upcoming plans, and I thought I would just show you, I meant to show you this in my segment where I was talking about my swatch for my sweater, but I was too excited to tell you about this. But that I did just some sketches for the color work for how I would do it, and here's my notes about my pre-washing and post-washing gauge, and this is like a coded, it's not, whatever, code for me of how I'm doing what order I'm doing the different motifs in and what color they are in as well. So yeah, that is that. I thought I would just show you. And the other thing this week I picked up at the Apotheket pharmacy is this, which is kind of funny because this lotion is actually made in Denver, Colorado, which I'm from Boulder, Colorado, so it's not far away at all. This is Love and Toast lotion, and they have really cool packaging, I think. Just a little bit hard for you to see, but I picked up this little lotion. Like, it's just funny. There's the toast and there's the heart inside of the box. But I really like this lotion, and I was happy to see it here. I also used their chapstick, which is, I have Rose Sorbet Lemon Toast, that I like a lot. And I picked this up. I haven't had this lotion in a while. I previously have had the pink grapefruit scent, and this is Gin Blossom. And this is just, it's really nice, light scent. It's not really perfumey or really strong. I think some of the other scents are a bit more perfumey, so you might want to smell them first if you're sensitive to that. But the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because this lotion is really nice for when you, in the winter, when it's getting a little bit drier and, you know, your hands start to get those little dry bits that snag on yarn. This lotion is really nice because it's lightweight and it absorbs really quickly, and so you can keep knitting. And it helps your hands, yeah, it gets rid of that scratchy, snaggy part of your fingers. So I really like it. Anyway, I'm just thought I would tell you about that. And I was thinking about this because I was using a different lotion on my hands the other day, and it was not a good lotion to use with yarn because it was really, it didn't absorb quickly, so it was like too sticky. I could feel it on my hands, and it was grabbing my yarn. So I was thinking about this though, which if you are trying to learn to knit with holding the yarn in your left hand, so I never remember if it's continental or like the opposite of throwing. So you're holding it in your left hand, which is how I knit. You have it like wrapped around your left pointer finger, or that's how I do it. If you're trying to learn to knit in that way, this could be a good thing to try, I think, maybe. Because having lotion on your hands, except for not this one, but other lotion, could make your hands a little bit more grippy. If you have a hard time knitting in that style because it's difficult to tension the yarn, which I think is a common thing that people have a problem with, so you know, like this way, then if you just put a little bit of lotion on your hands, it could give you just enough grip extra that your yarn won't just slide away. So whatever. That's totally random and maybe not useful, but I was just thinking about it if you were struggling with doing the continental, because like for this colorwork project, I'm doing both throwing and continental. I hold one color in each hand. And I know that some of you have expressed interest in that before when I posted a video clip on Instagram with that. So I thought I would just mention it. But I think that is it for this week. I will enjoy knitting for the rest of the afternoon and catching up on some podcasts. Oh yeah, before I go, I will tell you that I'm wearing my Bridgewater. I often wear this, I use this every day, mostly as a blanket on the couch. But today I felt like having it as a shawl. And this is a pattern by Jared Flood. I knit it a long time ago, but not really. I knit it in, I think, 2009 in some Knit Picks lace. I think it was called Bear Lace or something, which is just white cream. And I really love this blanket shawl. And I am using a shawl pin from my mom, and she bought this, I think it was at a yarn festival in Salida, Colorado, and she sent it to me here. So, yes. I hope you have a nice rest of your day and that you have plenty of time to knit this week, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye.